One standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB14 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Westminster, the ultimate clique.
And you're fighting like rats in a sack.
But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask.
OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician.
Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Hello there, it's 6 o'clock. I'm Michelle Dewberry, and this is Dewbs & Co. Coming up tonight. I can tell you now, protests continue across the country, of course, in relation to those illegal migrant hotels. But is anyone in power listening? And should they be? And with migration, let's face it, absolutely out of control, the US Vice President J.D. Vance says that Europe is engaging in civilizational suicide. What's your thoughts on that? And the Health Secretary, Wes Streeting, has warned the BMA that if they go to war with this government, they will lose. That's tough talk, but do you think it'll make the BMA back down from their pay demands? And the Labour Party have announced new measures to try and help small businesses, but do they go far enough? And last but not least, new figures out today show the amount of money we're spending per year on foreign criminals in our prisons. You'll want to be sitting down for this one. All of that and lots more. Keeping me company, my panel tonight, Kelvin Mackenzie, the former editor of The Sun, and Joe Phillips, the journalist and former press secretary to Paddy Ashdown. But before we get stuck in, let's cross live and give you your 6 o'clock news headlines.
Very good evening to you. Our headlines at 6 o'clock. A 76-year-old man has been arrested on suspicion of administering poison after 8 children fell ill at a summer camp in Leicestershire. Police were called to the camp in the village of Stathern on Sunday. Paramedics assessed the children before taking them to hospital as a precaution. They were then discharged. The suspect remains in custody. The police watchdogs confirmed it is investigating the force's handling of the incident. Conor McGregor's lost his appeal against a civil jury's finding he sexually assaulted a woman in 2018. Dublin's High Court found in November the MMA fighter was liable for raping Nikita Hand, awarding her damages of £216,000 and ordering him to pay £1.1 million in legal costs. Mr McGregor had intended to introduce fresh evidence into his appeal to explain bruises suffered by Ms Hand, but withdrew his application without explanation as the case began. 2 brothers accused of assaulting a police officer at Manchester Airport will face a retrial in April next year. Mohammed Amaz and his brother Mohammed Ahmad are charged with assaulting PC Zachary Marsden last summer. Yesterday, the jury in the trial at Liverpool Crown Court found Amaz guilty on 3 counts of assaulting 2 other police officers and a member of the public at the airport. Today, at a separate hearing, Amaz was refused bail and remanded in custody until a further bail hearing late in August. Mr Ahmad was granted unconditional bail. Donald Trump's Middle East envoy has been meeting the Prime Minister Netanyahu in Israel to discuss the crisis in Gaza. Steve Witkoff is there in an effort to salvage ceasefire talks and address the humanitarian crisis. The meeting takes place as Israel faces mounting international pressure over Gaza, with Portugal, the latest country to consider joining Canada and the UK, in saying it will recognise a Palestinian state. Meanwhile, the government's defended criticism that its plan does not involve firm conditions being placed on Hamas. Cabinet Minister Jonathan Reynolds says the UK doesn't negotiate with terrorist organisations.
Our requests that all hostages must be released and that Hamas can play no future role in the governance of Gaza or a Palestinian state are long-standing. Now, we don't negotiate with terrorists, and Hamas are terrorists, and that's why we don't get into a to and fro with them as to what we want them to do. That's absolute in terms of our requests. What we are seeking to do is use the moment of recognition of a Palestinian state in a way that allows us to genuinely try and move this conflict forward, end it not just in the short term, but for the long term as well.
And the funeral service for the former Conservative Cabinet Minister, Lord Tebbit, has been held at the cathedral in the town he lived in. Former party leader, Serene Duncan-Smith, who delivered an address, described Lord Tebbit as a great servant to his country with a wonderfully wicked sense of humour. Norman Tebbit served as a cabinet minister under Margaret Thatcher. He died at his home in Bury St Edmunds earlier this month, aged 94. Those are your latest headlines. I'll be back with more at 7.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Thank you very much for that, and hello, good evening to each and every single one of you at home. My name is Michelle Dewberry. This is Dewbs & Co, keeping you company until 7 o'clock tonight. Alongside me, I've got my panel, Kelvin Mackenzie, the former editor of The Sun, and alongside him, I've got Joe Phillips, journalist and former press secretary to Paddy Ashdown. Good evening to both of you. And to each and every single one of you at home, you're very welcome. You can join the conversation in all the usual ways. You can email me, gbviews@gbnews.com. You can go to the website, gbnews.com/yoursay. Or, of course, you can tweet or you can X me. There's lots that we need to discuss tonight. Before I get into that, I've got a really random question, and I caveat this question because there is no reason whatsoever why I am asking you this. It's just that it came up in conversation, literally, just as we were waiting to come up on air. My simple question for you is, what year do you think that McDonald's came to the UK? You don't get a prize if you get the answer right, and don't Google it because I will know if you did. What's your answer to that question?
I was a junior reporter on the South East London Mercury. We covered Woolwich, and I think it was around the Woolwich area. I think I may well be spectacularly wrong on that, but I think it was round about 1966, 1968.
So you think 66, 68? What do you think?
Oh, I think it was a lot later than that. I think it was into the 70s, probably 76, 77.
76, 77. There is no reason why I am asking you that. It just, as I said, it popped into my head. We had a conversation about it. Let me know what you think. Don't Google it. I'll give you the answer a little bit later on. Anyway, look, we all know that tensions are quite high across the country right now. And we saw scenes, well, we've seen them pretty much popping up all over the place now, haven't we? They continue in the likes of Epping, in places like Waterlooville. We covered Waterlooville a little while ago. That was the place that had such a deserted high street where it had empty shops galore. Well, of course, you'll be familiar with that story. They were planning then to actually put asylum seekers, illegal migrants up into properties there. Locals were having absolutely none of it, taking to the streets. Suella Braverman actually took to Twitter as well, and she was praising people essentially for taking to the streets in a peaceful manner, I have to say, and that does need to be stressed, that anyone that takes to the streets, we do live in a democracy, you're free to protest, but it must always, of course, be done, you know, with as much kind of energy as people want to display. Nothing wrong with that, but it also must be done as peacefully as possible, she says. She was very proud of the people of Waterlooville tonight, to the thousands of locals who peacefully protested. You speak for millions, said Suella. 0 offences, arrests and no disorder. You are not far right, you just love our country and you're willing to stand up for it. So thank you to the Home Office and to the Borough Council. We say no, and thank you, she says, to the police for keeping everybody safe. These protests don't seem to be ending anytime soon, Kelvin.
No, and also I see that the local politicians in Epping have now asked the Home Office to consider shutting down the hotel, which has been the centre of the row so far. I enjoy that idea. I like the idea that local councillors, acting on behalf of the majority, I suspect, of the local residents, are having their voice heard. I like what happened at Waterloo. I agree with Suella. What I don't like seeing happen is seeing people at the front of those demonstrations abusing the police.
No,
it has
I hate
nothing
that.
whatsoever to do with our officers. They are simply standing there. And I do not like that, and I want them to stop it. And they would get a lot more support if they just carried on chanting, but left the police just to stand there. Why you should have to be abused in that manner? If you go down to Waterloo Station or any station, there's signs up there saying abuse is not acceptable. It's not acceptable at railway stations, and it's not acceptable to officers simply standing there trying in some way to maintain order.
No, and also, of course, you do have impartial policing in this country, but at the end of the day, secretly, some of these police officers, they might even agree. They might be local people themselves. They might actually agree that they don't want the hotel in that kind of area any more than some of those protesters do. I mean, obviously, they can't suggest that. But you never really know. It's absolutely ludicrous, this whole notion that attacking frontline police officers, people's mothers, people's fathers, absolutely appalling. Jo, your thoughts?
Well, I completely agree. Peaceful protest is absolutely fine, and we know perfectly well and we understand why people are concerned and why they've got grievances. But, you know, if you compare and contrast the crowds that we saw watching the England women's football team coming back on the Mall, not any element, even, you know, during the final, there weren't chairs being chucked around, there weren't drunks, there weren't punch-ups like you see in the men's football so often and tragically. And if you think, Michelle, that in Southport, in those riots a year ago, 40% of the people who were arrested had got previous either convictions or complaints for domestic abuse. And I think, you know, what we need to do is... I don't think
that was the case just in Southport, is it?
Well, those are the only figures that are relevant in the case of this. But the point being that you will get your voice heard and listened to if you are peaceful and respectful of the police.
Well, let's just take that point. So you take those people at Waterlooville, exclusively white as far as I could see, right? I didn't see everybody there, but... they were chanting away, and they were peaceful. Does anybody believe that this government is going to do anything about it? They haven't done one single thing since July the 4th last year to stop the very problem which is leading to these riots, to these peaceful protests. So you could be forgiven to think that someday there will be an explosion to say we keep on demanding change. There is no change. We have a Prime Minister who says one thing and does another. In fact, doesn't do anything. So who on earth is going to act for these people? Who speaks for them in Waterlooville?
But the trouble is, Kelvin, you know perfectly well, as I do and as does Michelle and the viewers, that the people who fill that void are people like Tommy Robinson, who's apparently gone on holiday to Tenerife. You know, they are bad actors, they are bad eggs.
But who is going to act for them?
It's up to the government to come out and tell people what they're doing. And, you know...
The government doesn't need to tell people what they're doing, because anyone that's got working eyesight can see what they're doing. What they are doing is pumping communities against the wishes of the local residents. They are pumping those communities full of largely single, often, mostly, undocumented males, often from communities that we know in this country that some of these guys have a higher propensity to perform things like sexual assaults. So we know what they're doing.
But a lot of those people will have been in those temporary accommodations under the previous government, Michelle. That is part of the problem. I mean,
correct.
You know, you can't just blame it all on Labour.
I definitely do not blame it all on
And a lot of
Labour.
those people have been there, and the problem existed under the previous government.
But the good news is that the public have not forgotten all this, and they're down at 16 and 17% in the polls, and stand. My rear end stands more chance of being elected than as Prime Minister. Than Kemi Badenoch.
You're absolutely right, though, because I see the likes of Chris Philp and all the rest of it criticising stuff like this, and I think to myself, I don't know how you dare.
How you've got the nerve.
How have you got the brass neck to stand there criticising and lecturing the Labour Party when you lot, this all happened under your watch? The only pushback to that, I imagine if he was sitting next to me now, he would say, yes, Michelle, but currently it's something like 50% up on where it was when the Tories left at the same point last year. That's what I imagine.
Yeah, but then the government would turn around and they would say, we have returned more people They have returned more people.
Primarily voluntarily. That's what this government... This government will sit here and shout from the rafters that they are deporting 30,000 people. The bit that they won't actually shout from the rafters about is that the vast majority of those people return voluntarily, often paid for by the taxpayer.
And Suella Braverman, of course, who's sounding like all sweetness and light and, of course, is the MP for Waterlooville, she was Home Secretary, I seem to remember.
She was briefly, yes.
Yeah. But she would argue that she was very against a lot of this stuff that was going on, and that's why she ceased to be.
OK, we can talk about this until we're blue in the face. Actually, the 25,000 come so far this year, so we say it's 50,000 this year, and with Starmer playing the legal card or not prepared to go to war with France, which is probably what it would take, we're going to have another 200,000, so there'll be more Waterloovilles all over the country. What are we going to do? Are we actually going to do anything?
Well, where are we going to put these people? Because, you know, the problem is, and the previous government failed to address it, you know, there are... OK, well, let's talk about today. What are we going to do going forward on this? Because, and so we'll probably have this debate every Thursday, me, you, Michelle, for the next 4 years. Yeah. What is going to happen? What will happen to the country? Where will the tension be? Will something suddenly happen? You know, there will be some kind of rape or some attack on somebody, and suddenly the whole country will ignite. Do you think Starmer, when he's forced against the wall, he's not a man of strength, as we've seen with Palestine, right? So he's not going to go against the flow. I am fearful that one day, and so in an odd way, so I agree with both Rayner and Farage. We appear to be on the cusp of some kind of social breakdown of some kind. Now, that cusp may never happen, but we can't just carry on saying it's perfectly all right to bring in 4,000 people every day, every week, every month.
Well, I can tell you, J.D. Vance, Vice President of the US, he's actually warned that Europe is engaging in, and I'll quote, civilizational suicide when it comes to this. What's your thoughts on that? I'll explore that a bit later, but before I get to that, I want to talk to you about Labour and small business, and I also want to look at the BMA as well. I'll see you in a few minutes.
This is our country, and we think it's amazing. From high tea to the high street, we love it all. Even the rain, we like that too. There's nowhere else we'd rather be. That's why we're here to be the fearless champion of Britain, its voices and its values. Because we are GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You've read the headlines, you've heard what those in power have to say. How about now we actually get to the truth?
They would pay attention.
We go beyond the political theatre and tell you what's really going on behind the scenes. For a massive council tax hike, one of the biggest in the UK. Others follow their lines, but we go off script.
You sound like a broken record. You say that week after week.
Cutting through the narratives and giving you unique perspectives. That's Ben Leo tonight, Saturdays and Sundays from 9 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently. It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive.
I mean, this is very good.
It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m.
Only on GB News.
5 hosts, 5 opinions, 5 fearless debates,
5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night.
This is the Saturday Five.
You got me good there.
Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show.
It's not a bad brand.
Yeah.
Uncensored.
Very, very racy tonight.
On the unpredictable.
What did she say? Can you translate it for us?
And always entertaining.
And how can a country go from being led by William Wallace to Saturday nights from 6 p.m. only on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
You're going to want to stay tuned, trust me.
Hello there, I'm Michelle Dewberry. This is Dewbs & Co, keeping you company till 7. I've got Kelvin McKenzie and Joe Phillips alongside me. Lots of you getting involved with my McDonald's question. I do have to stress, there is not a prize at the end of this. It was just a random thing that popped into my brain about McDonald's, and lots of you are getting involved, telling me the year that you think it came to the UK. Anyway, look, let's talk small business, shall we? Are you an entrepreneur? Are you a small business owner? How are you faring at the moment? Because it has been very challenging times, to put it mildly, for many of you. Well, today we've seen the Labour Party launch what they are calling the biggest crackdown on late payments in a generation. If you have got a small business, you will know that people who do not pay you on time can be the bane of your life, and actually often the difference between you living and surviving and not as a business. They say that they're now going to penalise firms who persistently delay payments. So what do you think now? Has this switched the dial? Are Labour on the side of small business? I'm joined now by serial entrepreneur and the founder of Dent Global, Daniel Priestley. Good evening to you, Daniel. I've got to say, Labour have come under a lot of criticism recently for some of their, what many people say are anti-business policies. What they're announcing today in terms of helping smaller businesses to get payments in. Is this a bit of a turn in the road?
Look, I think it's wonderful. Anything that a government can do to acknowledge the role of small businesses is good. The small business community represents something like 60% of the UK economy. We have $2.8 trillion pounds worth of GDP. We employ 16.6 million people. We have 55,000 R&D grants that we file every single year, which is us innovating. So this is a really important part of the UK economy. It's wonderful to see that they're doing something, but it's just not even anywhere close to being enough. I speak to a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of businesses, a lot of fast growth companies. Occasionally you hear about someone saying that they're upset about a late payment. But the vast majority of small businesses are talking about the fact that they're overtaxed, that the taxes are way too high, that there's even talk of wealth taxes on the valuation of businesses, which could be a disaster, and also that there are going to be day one employment rights if you're going to hire someone on top of the 15% new rate of national insurance for employers. So there are bigger issues that the small business community tends to care about. But with that said, it's good that they're making some strides in this direction.
Yeah, indeed. And you mentioned that wealth tax. There's huge question marks as to whether or not that will or won't happen. I've got to tell you, viewers get in touch with me daily. We often discuss this. It really divides people. Many people, Daniel, will say, well, actually, you've got to tax the rich more. You've got to tax them more.
Yeah, well, already 1% of people pay 30% of the taxes, 10% of people pay 60% of the taxes. Small businesses pay all sorts of taxes. We collect VAT, we pay employers' national insurance, we pay council rates, we have corporation tax. If we pull any money out of the business, we then pay our rate on top of that, our income rate. On anything like dividends. If we sell the business, we have capital gains taxes. So small businesses are the engine room of taxation. We create so much taxation. It's those entrepreneurial small businesses that are just paying enormous amounts of tax. So the idea that small businesses aren't paying enough tax or their fair share of tax is utterly ridiculous. It's almost insulting, or it is insulting. And whoever's saying that we need to pay even more taxes on top needs their head read.
Yeah, but they would say, no, it wouldn't be the small businesses. It would be like the people that have got assets over £10 million, the uber rich.
Well, they haven't ruled out the idea that they would tax business valuation, and business valuation can be a really ridiculous exercise. So, for example, if you run a small software company, You may do a small investment round, and for the purpose of that investment round, or a merger or an acquisition, for the purpose of that transaction, you might, on paper, have a paper valuation of £25 million on one business that is going through a transaction process. No money's changing hands. No one's getting rich off of it. It's just a paper valuation that is applied to a business for the purpose of raising money or for the purpose of doing a transaction. What would happen if they introduced this wealth tax, and they haven't ruled this out, is that anyone who's growing a business through acquisition or through raising money could literally just create a massive tax liability for their shareholders without any of the shareholders actually having any of the money off the table yet, which basically would make the UK a terrible place for serious entrepreneurship. And the government needs to rule that out. They need to say that is never going to happen. That is not going to happen, because already the entrepreneur community are looking to places like Dubai. I'm joining you from Dubai. I'm actually here in Dubai on business. And I can tell you that it's a little bit like the UK government are hopping onto their bicycle and Dubai is driving a Formula One car. Because when you hop on the plane to go to Dubai at the moment, on the in-flight entertainment, there is a screen that tells you how to set up a company in Dubai, how to leverage their low tax system, how to set up in a free trade zone. It gives you a 22-step checklist as to what you need to do in order to succeed within the Dubai economy. Here in Dubai, they take small business and entrepreneurship incredibly seriously. They understand that that is the key to the game. They understand that is what creates the future wealth of an economy, and they're investing heavily into supporting entrepreneurs. So, you know, the key thing is we live in a globally competitive world right now. Every entrepreneur is in competition with every other entrepreneur in the world, and every government is in competition with every other government in the world. You know, if the UK government makes it too hard to succeed in the UK, then entrepreneurs are going to have to take their businesses abroad, or investors are going to have to invest in competitive companies in other countries. So one way or another, the UK will miss out if the government doesn't get really serious about entrepreneurship.
I've got to tell you this, because many of my viewers will be listening, many will agree with you, but I can tell you some of my viewers will be writing in going, so what? If these people want to go to Dubai or wherever, so what? Good riddance.
Yeah, imagine that you had a hotel and you had 1% of your customers who paid 30% of the bills, and you said, well, so what if that 1% leaves? Well, you wouldn't have a hotel for very long. 1% of people are paying 30% of the bills in the UK. 10% of people are paying 60% of the bills in the UK. If those people leave, you miss out on the jobs. 75% of new jobs that are created in the UK economy are created through entrepreneurship. So you miss out on all of the good jobs. Entrepreneurs create advanced economy jobs. They don't create terrible little jobs. They create great jobs. Most great job creation companies creating technology, they're creating innovation, you know, they're exporting globally. Those are the types of jobs that come from entrepreneurship. It's the types of jobs that kids grow up and aspire to be included in. And if those types of people leave, then what are you left with? Are we all going to work for the local council? Are we all going to work for, you know, a government job? Unfortunately, someone has to create the taxes in the first place that pays for everything else. You may not like wealth creators, you may not like entrepreneurs, but the truth is that these are the people who are paying the bills, creating the jobs, and we need to create an environment where they can succeed in doing that, and that they can create those jobs, and that they can create that company wealth. That country wealth.
Interesting stuff. Daniel Priestley, entrepreneur, thank you very much for your time. Any response, Calvin McKenzie?
Well, there were a couple of things. First of all, it is an absolute joke to think that the Labour government is in any way interested in anything to do with business at all. The first thing that they did when they came in was they absolutely smashed them about with a massive NI tax increase. They have no more idea what makes a business run. They don't like people who create wealth anyway. They don't understand them. Everybody in the Labour government, it basically comes from either working for the local council, local charity, or trade unions, all of which are kind of bug-in-turn jobs. Entrepreneurship is damned hard. I don't agree with them about the bills. The reason businesses fail has got nothing to do with bills being paid slowly. It's because it's not a business. That's the reason they fail. So they're wasting their time. They're also wasting...
No, cash flow matters.
Cash flow matters, but it's something you can control. You just have to put up with it. It's like complaining about the sea, about people when you're a captain. this is what happens. People don't pay you on time, and you have to factor that into your cash flow, not theirs. Right? You have to think about these things. It's the most ludicrous thing, a complete waste of money, and they're also going to spend a load of money trying to, quote, encourage entrepreneurs with cash. You don't need to encourage entrepreneurs, I can tell you that. Leave them alone and let them keep their money.
Well, this is interesting because this is the government giving new powers to the Small Business Commissioner, who was set up in 2016. But only now has that person, that commission, got the power to tackle late payments, which makes you wonder what the hell they've been doing since 2016.
You're doing nothing.
And I don't agree with Kelvin about the late payment. It's absolutely crippling for small businesses. And if you think about, not everyone is an entrepreneur, but lots of people are small businesses. They might be, I don't know, tree surgeons, they might be plumbers, they might be electricians or decorators. And there's a fine line between the people who are setting up. I think what Daniel said about premises is really interesting. And there needs to be a whole look at the way we can help people who are perhaps moving out of their van or their home into premises where they want to take on more stuff. Because you pay different rates.
You take on more staff under Labour, you have to pay taxes. And not only that, when you take somebody on day one, they turn out to be absolute numpties. You have to end up paying them off or go to an employment tribunal and be traduced while you give evidence. They're disgrace. They know nothing about business. They should keep their conch out of it.
But I do think, you can look at the way you do business rates. Anything to actually show that you're supporting them will be interesting.
What about reducing taxes then for business? That would be helpful. I've reduced corporations' tax instead of putting them up, which is what they did.
I do think that we should be a much lower tax economy in this country. I really, really do. Janet has got in touch. She said, please can you tell Joe Phillips, the majority of people who go to watch England's men's football do not get drunk and throw chairs around. I feel very offended by her comments.
Fair enough. That's OK. But you get the point that I was making, that you quite often will see at an international game groups of fans who are probably not real football fans. And just for your information, I had a West Ham season ticket for an awfully long time and used to go to football matches frequently. But the point was that you didn't see the same stuff, which, and you'll know this, Kelvin, the newspapers used to hope and pray that there'd be a bunch of thugs with their bellies out.
As a season ticket holder at both Brentford and Charlton, obviously I spend quite a lot of time with the people. And actually, at Brentford, probably the most middle-class football club in the world, right? The most frightening thing that happens is somebody opens a crisp packet. There is nothing, there are no problems there at all. And at Charlton, because there are so few there, or were there last season, but next season will be different, then there wasn't any trouble there either. I think that is very much a 70s and 80s
yes, it
thing.
Has gone.
Although there was the most shocking punch-up with the England-Italy game, which a load of louts came in and actually ruined it for everybody. But by and large, anyway, it was a nice thing to see that the women all enjoy themselves and winning. So that was unusual as well.
You see, I think this is a very strange thing for me to now reflect on, but I remember when I was quite young and my father was involved.
When was that?
It was about 5 minutes ago. And my dad was involved in what you would probably call football hooliganism, and I don't think I'm not suggesting this is a good thing by any stretch. But it was always quite organised. Different clubs of people, they wanted, and I think actually many of them actually enjoyed that. I think it's changed somewhat.
And if you think, Michelle, that was before emails and mobile phones, you had to be quite organised. You'd meet in the pub, they'd get tanked up and they'd go and pick a fight.
Well, there you go. Times have changed, haven't they? For the better, I think, when it comes to that particular topic. J.D. Vance, though, he has accused Europe of engaging in civilizational suicide when it comes to the complete lack of control of the borders. Do you agree with that? I also want to talk to you about doctor strikes as well. See you in a few.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries. All sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
If you or anyone you know is heading further afield this weekend, it's going to be very wet in northern Italy and Slovenia. Fine elsewhere, just 1 or 2 showers for the Canaries, a brisk breeze for Madeira. That breeze actually bringing some warmth to Portugal, into parts of Spain as well. But it's for northern Italy, into Slovenia, parts of Croatia. We're going to see some very wet weather over the next few days, that transferring southeast into parts of Greece early next week.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Evening, welcome to your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. Some lively weather in the forecast, but for many places tomorrow's going to be fine, dry and bright. So there'll be a few showers here and there and quite a brisk and fresh wind blowing. There's a ridge of high pressure trying to topple in. This weather front clearing away brought some heavy downpours across the south through the day, steadily pulling away now. So many places will become dry overnight, but that breeze increasing across the east, bringing more cloud and a few scattered showers here and across North Wales and northern Scotland, one or two coming into Northern Ireland too. But for many places, it will be dry, a little fresher than recent nights. Temperatures at 13, 14 towns and cities, but a little lower in the countryside. On to Friday, and as I said, by and large, dry and bright for the most part, but there will still be a few showers around. Not as many and not as heavy as the downpours we've seen today across the south. Generally here a sunny start, but a few showers coming into Wales, Northern Ireland early on. They should tend to fade away. Always the risk of showers coming in and the northwesterly breeze across the northwest of Scotland. And there's this zone of thicker cloud out in the North Sea. That is going to make for quite a grey day on some of these North Sea beaches over eastern England. And at times a little bit of drizzly rain moving in, and that breeze will make it feel pretty fresh here. Inland, we'll also see a few showers bubbling up, northwest England, the Midlands, perhaps into the southeast of England as well, but still pretty well scattered. And as I said, not the hefty downpours that we've seen today. Many places dry, bright with a bit of sunshine. Temperatures getting up into the high teens, low 20s, so about average for the time of year. Feeling a bit fresher perhaps than it has done. Certainly a fresh start to the weekend, but for quite a few of us, Saturday's a good-looking day. Dry, sunny spells, just the odd shower across eastern parts of England. Clouding over in the northwest later on, and that is a sign of a change. Feeling quite warm on Saturday afternoon, but some wet and very windy weather heading our way for Sunday and particularly Monday.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good evening. This is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. Road users on the M9 westbound between junctions 6 and 7 should proceed with caution due to a vehicle fire causing delays. Traffic is also affected on the M4 eastbound at junction 48, with the carriageway closed for maintenance and diversions in place. Further congestion is on the M6 southbound in Lancashire between junctions 28 and 27, resulting in one lane closure and 30-minute delays. The M23 northbound between junctions 11 and 10A in West Sussex faces 10-minute delays, and on the trains, expect disruptions on the Elizabeth line between Romford and Stratford in London. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Dewbs & Co. with me, Michelle Dewberry, Kelvin Mackenzie, the former editor of The Sun, and Joe Phillips, the journalist and former press secretary to Paddy Ashdown. Janet, you can decide whether or not you like Joe's response to what she said about the football. Keith says, Michelle, peaceful protests are fine when the powers that be listen. He says the trouble is they are not listening. People have made their desires known multiple times at the ballot boxes on a variety of different votes and so on and so forth, but they are not listening. Simon says, Michelle, so many people now feel politically lost. The reason for the unrest is simple. People by the day giving up on politics completely. And once that happens, more radical parties and more radical people will start being listened to. And in some cases, he says, that can be dangerous. Well, speaking of dangerous, then, the US Vice President J.D. Vance, he has accused Europe of engaging in what he says, and I quote, civilizational suicide. Let's take a listen to him.
Yes, the Europeans annoy me sometimes, and yes, I disagree with them on certain issues, but we have to remember that is the cradle of Western civilization. Europe is at risk, I think, of engaging in civilizational suicide. They are unable to, or unwilling, too many countries to control their borders. You see them starting to push back against that, and good, that's a good thing. You see them starting to limit the free speech of their own citizens, even as those citizens are protesting against things like the border invasion that got Donald Trump and a number of European leaders elected.
Kevin McKenzie, what do you think to some of that?
Well, he went on to particularly blame, I think, Germany. And I think it was in 2016, Merkel made the disastrous decision to allow, I think, 1 million Syrians into the country. And there have been all kinds of shocking terrorist outrages connected with that decision. I think our own country, I'm a Londoner, or I was born in London, and you go around London now, it feels about 50-50 between the white community and others. It's right on the balance. I find that strange. I don't find it civilizationally suicide. But I just wonder if we did the same thing in Bangladesh, where their capital city was 50% white, whether there might be pushback by the community there, or even to have a white prime minister. So there are debates to be had. I absolutely hate seeing those boats arriving every day. I hate prime ministers of any colour, and I agree with that viewer of yours saying that actually we haven't got any power. So people who feel strongly about this thing haven't actually really got a representative. It looks as though that representative will be Nigel Farage, and I hope it is. But the closer you get to power, politicians often begin to kind of move their position.
Yes, it's interesting, isn't it, J.D. Vance? I mean, it is important to point out that this is not a new interview. This was done 4 months ago on Fox News, so it's not new. Frankly, he can mind his own business. This is a country that is now destroying some of America's fantastic institutions and all the things that has made in America a great country. It's science, it's academic research, it's cultural and civic institutions.
It has stopped illegal migrants coming in, though.
But let's move away.
Which is why he got elected.
Yes, but we're talking about civilization here. And civilization is based on cultural things and civic identity and all of those things which that government are dismantling. He also talked about free speech. I mean, this is the government in America where people are frightened and are being advised to wipe their social media and their phones before they arrive in America. Scientists are not allowed to attend conferences, university professors, academics. They're burning and destroying.
I actually know a case where it looks as though somebody has just been turned down.
Yeah.
Right, somebody has just been turned down going to America. And they have no idea why this is the case. And I just said, well, I wonder whether your social media attacked Trump.
Yeah, but isn't that the very essence of border control, though, that you decide who enters your country? I don't know this person that you're talking about or what he and her may or may not have done. I don't know.
No, actually, I don't know them. My wife knows the family. And they are quite shocked about it, to be honest. It's just happened just now, literally over the last week or so, and they're trying to work out why they can't go to America.
And Joe, like you're saying about scientists and universities and whatever else, and at the end of the day, Donald Trump won because primarily people wanted control of the borders. Mm-hmm. They were not sitting there going, oh, I don't know, literature this and scientists that.
No, but you can see what's happened with huge increase in measles, for instance, which it can kill because you've got that lunatic Kennedy in charge of health who's a conspiracy theorist and an anti-vaxxer.
Joe, can I ask you this? If you were the American president, right, and one of the big problems in the country is this influx from Haiti and various other places coming in, and you said, I am going to stop that. Yeah. And you did do that. Yeah. That would be a miracle. If we had a leader, would you like a prime minister in this country who could say, actually, I am going to stop those people coming in. Would you like that?
But we are talking about J.D. Vance's criticism
No, but it's
of Europe.
it's the same issue.
No,
it's about the borders. He's talking about borders.
Yeah, the other thing, and it's very convenient sometimes to deflect everything onto migrants and borders and immigration control and ignore the other things.
But
like
Joe,
the
just tell the viewers that you are in favour. It's a simple question. Are you in favour of stopping those migrants washing up at
I am
Dover?
absolutely in favour of controlled immigration, and I am in favour of people not risking their lives coming across the channel and being beholden to criminal gangs.
It's an investment coming across that boat. It's not a risk, is it? It's an investment.
But, you know, like I said before, Kelvin, the previous government let it pile up and pile up.
I buy that. We have yet to have a Prime Minister, right, who is prepared to say, I am stopping this and this is what I'm going to do.
Exactly.
They don't seem to mess around in places like Greece, though. I can't help but notice, because I don't know what... I honestly cannot fathom often why our country seems to be so different to all of the other countries, because when it comes to illegal migration, these kind of camps and tents and all the rest of it, that seems to be perfectly fine for the likes of Calais, but no, when they come here, it needs to be the likes of four-star hotels over in Greece. They turn around and they say, we're actually not having any of this, quite frankly, and if you do make this crossing in this way, you will be deemed as an illegal migrant. You will not be entering into our country, full stop. Over here, we seem to be completely the opposite. It's ludicrous.
Well, part of the problem is Brexit, which I know everybody go, oh, you can't bring Brexit in. But, you know, part of the problem is, and we have spent an awful lot of money on French policing and French promises over the years that have failed to materialise. I mean, I do think the government is trying to get a grip, but you must...
Do you honestly believe...
I do. I absolutely do.
In what sense? After all, he's changed the narrative now. You honestly, if you paid him 20 million quid, he wouldn't say smash the gangs anymore, would he? He never mentions gangs smashing them or doing anything. The truth about the matter is he's been proved completely wrong, let's be honest.
They are trying to clear the backlog and get people gone. The prison figures out today from the Ministry of Justice. There's an awful lot of foreign prisoners. But I don't know, Kelvin, whether those are people on remand or whether they're people who have been charged and sentenced. Because
some of the figures are shocking. Like Syrians are like 32% up year on year. Afghans 28% up. You know, the whole of our system is being corrupted by people who shouldn't even be here. I don't want them here.
But if they're held on remand and they haven't been to trial yet, they can't be sent anywhere.
If you're wondering, by the way, new data came out today. It says that when it comes to foreign offenders that have been held in jails, it's costing us taxpayers nearly £600 million a year. Yeah, you heard that right, £600 million a year. Brilliant. Coming up after the break, something that's also going to end up costing us a few bob, ladies and gents. The doctors' strike. Wes Streeting has warned the BMA that if they go to war with this government, they will lose. Your thoughts?
Welcome back to Britain's Newsroom with Andrew and Beth.
Hello everyone, Patrick Christie's here.
I'm Michelle Dewberry. Britain's News Channel.
Access the stories that matter to you. Take the GB News family with you on any device. And as long as you have an internet connection, tune in to GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Join me, Nana Okoye, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
You've read the headlines, you've heard what those in power have to say. How about now we actually get to the truth?
They would pay attention.
We go beyond the political theatre and tell you what's really going on behind the scenes. For a massive council tax hike, one of the biggest in the UK. Others follow their lines, but we go off script.
You sound like a broken record, you say that week after week.
Cutting through the narratives and giving you unique perspectives. That's Ben Leo tonight, Saturdays and Sundays from 9 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Britain was once the envy of the world, but look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m. only on GB News.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There, you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact that Trump made a good start, no.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello everybody, welcome back to Dewbs & Co with me, Michelle Dewberry, Calvin Mackenzie and Joe Phillips. Now, the Health Secretary, Wes Streeting, we know this story by now. We know what the doctors, now called resident doctors, are trying to get. They want pay restoration back to 2008. Wes Streeting currently having absolutely none of it. He's now done a piece where he's saying that the BMA, if they go to war essentially with this government, they will lose. I mean, very tough words and all the rest of it, but what do you think the outcome of this situation with the BMA will be, Kelvin?
I think the BMA is going to be defeated. It cheers me up no end. And once they've stuffed this lot, the one I'm really looking forward to is taking on the train drivers, overpaid, unskilled, idle, and they'll be wanting a good chunk of money come the autumn. And previously, every government has always bent over for ASLEF and some of the NUR drivers. And this time, I think they're going to be defeated. And it'd be very interesting to see a Labour government knocking off 2 trade unions.
Cool, I hope there's some train drivers watching.
Oh, no, there will be. There will be. And can I thank them for the fact that they keep on turning up late to bring me here?
Well, I think on the BMA, I think they've lost public sympathy, and I think they're on a hiding to nothing. And I think Wes Streeting's absolutely right. I mean, he gave them a walloping great pay award as soon as the government was elected last year, with very few conditions. But he has been willing, and I believe him, to talk about other things like the cost of training and, work opportunities and things, instead of this pay rise. The other problem, of course, that's come up is the nurses, that they've voted against accepting a 3.6% pay rise today.
But if they were offered the 5.3, which the doctors have given... I must say that question about training, right? So these people are being... Look, we need doctors.
Yeah,
okay?
absolutely.
OK. AI might put a few of them out of work, which would probably cheer me up, since then they'll understand what life really looks like. Try being out of work, right? But so the nurses, there may be some wiggle room in all that. But, the reality is that the doctors have become the new miners. I.e., we can't function, we're all going to freeze to death, we're all going to die and everything. And slowly, it's become clear that actually they're not united, and that they thought there was easy money. There isn't easy money. No. And I'll be very pleased when they're beaten. And if they want to go somewhere else, be my guest. But I also don't want to train them up so that they're all making 120 grand a year. And at the same time, they're saying we're not prepared to be paid.
Exactly. And, you could come up with an imaginative deal and you say, OK, you graduate, and then we'll write off your student.
No,
loan.
I'm not in favour of writing off.
Wait a minute. But you've got to commit to working for the health service for at least 5 years, not get qualified and then go off to Australia or Canada or something.
Yeah, OK.
There are ways of looking at it, and I think, they are stupid, and I really don't think they've got...
But the doctors are enjoying, especially the consultants, they're enjoying it because they're standing behind these people and using them as the battering ram, and they're making $3 for working a Sunday. It is an absolute scandal. I'm in favour of the doctors getting more money. They should quit the NHS, they should set out on their own, and then they can earn as much money as they like.
Which is funny, Kelvin, because that's exactly what the BMA wanted to do when the NHS was introduced all those years ago.
Good idea.
They were absolutely against it.
I've come round to their way of thinking.
One of my viewers, Robert, says, Michelle, all inmates in prison, no matter who they are, no matter what they've done, I think he suggests, should have to go to work, and their wages should go towards paying their prison costs. I bet you'd support that idea, wouldn't you?
Yes, I mean, them sitting around all day doing quite not very much is obviously is a tinderbox. Yeah. Especially for what some of those people are inside for, and they've got good brains. I mean, those drug peddlers. I mean, they're sitting there weighing everything up and taking the money in cash and then hiding it through banking systems. I mean, these are clever people.
Yeah, very entrepreneurial.
I tell you what, why don't we put them in? Why don't we put them in the Labour government? Why don't we put them in the Treasury?
Prisoners used to work, but of course, lack of funding, overcrowding, all those resources that were there for education.
I think some of them still can work, but I think Bernard's point is that actually all of them, if they're physically able, obviously, would have to work, and that should be an actual policy, and their wages would be taken.
Oversee them working?
Prison officers. Anyway, look, at the start of the programme, I asked you a very random question for no reason whatsoever. What year did McDonald's first come to the UK? I've got to tell you, some of you did indeed get this right, but I think that's because you've Googled it, you cheeky so-and-sos.
Oh, Michelle,
I do. I think, because it's quite random. It's 1974, November the 13th, to be precise, and it was in Woolwich, South East London. Well, there you go. Good night, everyone.
It couldn't have been
See you tomorrow.
74.
Look at him, shut up. Right, goodbye. Have a good night. See you tomorrow night.
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Evening, welcome to your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. Some lively weather in the forecast, but for many places tomorrow's going to be fine, dry and bright. There'll be a few showers here and there and quite a brisk and fresh wind blowing. There's a ridge of high pressure trying to topple in. This weather front clearing away brought some heavy downpours across the south through the day, steadily pulling away now. So many places will become dry overnight, but that breeze increasing across the east, bringing more cloud and a few scattered showers here and across North Wales and northern Scotland, one or two coming into Northern Ireland too. But for many places it will be dry, a little fresher than recent nights. Temperatures at 13, 14 towns and cities, but a little lower in the countryside. On to Friday, and as I said, by and large, dry and bright for the most part, but there will still be a few showers around. Not as many and not as heavy as the downpours we've seen today across the south. Generally here a sunny start, but a few showers coming into Wales, Northern Ireland early on. They should tend to fade away. Always the risk of showers coming in and the northwesterly breeze across the northwest of Scotland. And there's this zone of thicker cloud out in the North Sea. That is going to make for quite a grey day on some of these North Sea beaches over eastern England. And at times a little bit of drizzly rain moving in, and that breeze will make it feel pretty fresh here. Inland, we'll also see a few showers bubbling up, northwest England, the Midlands, perhaps into the southeast of England as well, but still pretty well scattered, and as I said, not the hefty downpours that we've seen today. Many places dry, bright with a bit of sunshine, temperatures getting up into the high teens, low 20s, so about average for the time of year, feeling a bit fresher perhaps than it has done. Certainly a fresh start to the weekend, but for quite a few of us, Saturday's a good-looking day. Dry, sunny spells, just the odd shower across eastern parts of England. Clouding over in the northwest later on, and that is a sign of a change. Feeling quite warm on Saturday afternoon, but some wet and very windy weather heading our way for Sunday and particularly Monday.
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hey,
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good evening. This is the latest